Hello, everyone. Welcome to NFL Recap, where we recap every game of that week of the NFL season. We're going to go over week 2, and it was a week that was full of injuries, full of upsets that completely shook the NFL world. Thank you all for watching. Please remember to hit the subscribe button. Let's jump right into it. You all may have heard this happen on Thursday Night Football. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Miami Dolphins 31-10. The Dolphins played rather poorly. Again, in a situation where they had it set up for them, they failed to deliver. Tua played rather poorly. But that's not even the big story here. The bigger story is Tua, once again, suffered a concussion. This man, I've seen him suffer 4 of the worst concussions on television in front of my own eyes. I please beg him to go retire and try to live a fruitful life, because I fear that by the time he's 35, he's going to be shitting his pants and eating banana pudding. So, major problems for the Dolphins going forward. The Bills, however, look pretty good. Somehow, addition by subtraction. They lost several key pieces on defense, and they lost Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen didn't have to do a whole lot this game, though. The Bills could be sneaky good. They really could. They may not be as Josh Allen reliant as we thought. And I just want to see more sample size from this team before I believe in them. Because when they had a better roster and a better opportunity, they failed to cash in. It's also early in the season. I think what matters with them is what they do once they get in the playoffs. Has with many teams that can't get past the Chiefs. Now we're going to talk about the early window of games on Sunday. This was a big shocker, a huge upset, but not just because of the team that won, but because of how the game was played. The Saints went into Dallas and laid the smackdown on their candy ass, 44-19. Derek Carr, I almost called him Drew Brees. Derek Carr had the game of his life. Alvin Kamara had the game of his life. And they completely destroyed the Cowboys up and down the field. The Saints looked scary good. They had 15 straight drives where they scored points between playing Carolina and then now playing Dallas. They're averaging 45 points a game. They're off to the hottest start that a team ever has been at 2-0 on offense, basically. And, of course, they still have a pretty stout defense. I don't know what happened there in New Orleans, but they are motivated. And the Super Bowl is in New Orleans this year, and the Saints are looking like an honest, legit contender. Meanwhile, the Cowboys shit the bed, despite the fact they've won 16 straight games at home. Go figure. They won the game on the road last week on grass, but they lose at home in a dome this week. You just never know what you got to get with the Cowboys. That's why they're entertaining to watch. Anyway, how about this? The Bucs getting revenge against the Lions for a playoff loss last year. The Bucs won 20-16. In Detroit, big win for the Bucs here. It could play out, very important for seeding. The Bucs are also 2-0. They also are looking good. That NFC South division is looking a lot better than last year in general, which we'll have more on that later, except for the Panthers. They're not very good. And Detroit, back to the drawing board. They're 1-1. Colts at Packers. This game, I won't quite understand what happened here. The Packers relied on Josh Jacobs. He had 151 yards rushing. They were at home. But you figured with the loss of Jordan Love, if the Colts are going to get a win, this would be their opportunity. They failed to do so. And the AFC South, other than the Texans, looks like a total dumpster fire. Anthony Richardson, and I've been saying this for a while now, is not a starting quarterback. The Colts are going to figure that out sooner or later. He's not consistent enough in the pocket. His completion percentage isn't high enough. He isn't good enough. He just isn't good enough. And to lose to Malik Willis is embarrassing. So Packers won 16-10. Jets Titans. Jets won 24-17. Will Levis outpassed Aaron Rodgers. Keep in mind, Aaron Rodgers, it's been many years now since he's had a 300-yard passing game. This is not the same Aaron Rodgers, folks. He's washed. He's cooked. It's over. He's 40, and he's not Tom Brady 40. They were able to squeak out the win anyway, but it's against the Titans. Will Levis sucks. The Titans suck. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. So a win's a win, and they play the Patriots next. The Jets do, and we'll see what happens there. But if you have any delusions of grandeur that the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl, all those New York media people, I got news for you. It ain't fucking happening. I'm sorry, it's just not going to fucking happen. I'll drink bath water out of my bathtub before I think the Jets win a Super Bowl. Next up, we have another major upset and also more injuries to discuss. The Vikings beat the 49ers 23-17. Sam Darnold is looking amazing out there. He is doing what Baker Mayfield did last year. He's resurrecting his career. He's using Justin Jefferson, and they are winning. However, bad news. Justin Jefferson had a quad injury. We'll have to see how that progresses or how that affects the Vikings going forward. But so far, the Vikings are 2-0, and they're probably the most surprising 2-0 team. One of the more surprising ones. They got to be feeling good right now, except for the Justin Jefferson injury. The 49ers, look, they've had a problem against Minnesota in the past, playing in the Dome for whatever reason. Brock Purdy has. But Brock Purdy actually had a pretty good game. Jordan Mason had a good game running the ball. I'm not sure exactly what happened with this game, honestly, other than maybe the 49ers defense let them down a little bit. And, you know, they really do miss Christian McCaffrey. They can't wait for him to get back, even though Jordan Mason is doing a good job. Next up, we got Seahawks and Patriots, the only overtime game this weekend. The Seahawks were able to pull it out 23-20. You know, and so the Seahawks are 2-0 also, and it's a very quiet 2-0. Not many people are talking about the Seahawks, but they are indeed 2-0. And they are, right now, leading the NFC West. As far as the Patriots go, I like the fight they show. Like, I'm a Patriots fan. I could be proud of this team. Their new slogan, take them to the hill. They beat the Bengals. They showed fight in this game. They were down. They came back. They forced overtime. You know, I'm proud to be a Patriots fan. They may be under-talented. Give them a few years. But I like the effort they put in. And even though it's hard to move on from the era of Bill Belichick, Gerard Mayo is doing a good job at getting motivation out of new players. So that's good to see. And I definitely root for him against the Jets, those stinking Jets, on Thursday night. Next up, we got Giants and Washington. Good to see Washington with a win here, 21-18. If you're Washington, you're hoping to get a win. You're hoping to put together a win against the lowly Giants. Daniel Jones didn't actually have a bad game, believe it or not. He played serviceable. The Giants just aren't very good. Daniel Jones won't be the starter after next year. The Giants will definitely draft a quarterback. You know, Daniels had 226 passing in the air. I think there's definitely some potential there for him. And he could potentially win Rookie of the Year over Caleb Williams based on the performances we've seen so far. But maybe somebody besides the quarterback will win that award. We'll have to see. But they won the game on a chip shot field goal, 21-18. Next up, Chargers-Panthers. Chargers won 26-3. The Chargers are also 2-0. They beat the Raiders and the Panthers, so it's not much competition. However, when it comes to them winning, they're doing it on the ground. J.K. Dobbins is their workhorse, and Justin Herbert hasn't even played great yet. Harbaugh's already turned this stuff around. You know what I mean? He already has. You could already tell with his coaching style, and he brought physicality and toughness and situational football to the Chargers, which is what they need. This team is better than I even thought it would be, but we do have to see it against stiffer competition. Speaking of which, the Panthers looked like they're trending to be 0-17 this year. However, in a move that surprised me because I really thought he would get more games than this, Bryce Young has been benched. they've seen enough of the kid. He's 2-16 as a starter. He has a 70 passer rating. He comes out this year flat immediately. The Panthers are 0-2 immediately. And now Andy Dalton will get the start. And that begs the question, is Bryce Young the biggest bust of all time? And I would say yes, he is. If he gets no more starts and he gets no more opportunities and doesn't turn this around, I look at that win-loss record really poorly. I look at that passer rating really poorly. He has more interceptions than touchdowns, but that's not even the story. You know, Jamarcus Russell, we know, had the embarrassing, didn't look at the tapes, didn't try, didn't put effort in. I think this kid tries. He's just not very good. Ryan Leaf always had a temper with the media. That's not the issue here with Bryce Young. Bryce Young is just not very good. This is not the same quarterback I saw in college. He is smaller. You think maybe he's more susceptible to injury. It's not even injury. He's getting benched due to poor performance. And the Panthers are looking to win. They're not looking to tank anymore. They're tired of it. The new coach has seen enough, and he's moving on to Andy Dalton, who he knows can produce better for him. And I at least have to give him credit for admitting the truth. Browns beat the Jags 18-13. The Jags are 0-2. Again, the AFC South is a dumpster fire besides the Texans. Trevor Lawrence is not a prince. You lost 2 games at home to start the season and start off 0-2 after you blew last year's divisional lead and worked yourself all the way out of the playoffs. This is a sinking ship fast. The Jags could start the season 0-6. I talked about this before. I could see Trevor Lawrence getting benched for Mac Jones at some point, or I could see Doug Peterson getting fired. This is not working. The Jags have got to do something with this offense. They got to do something on how to close games. The Browns looked like the worst team in the league last week, and this week they're able to pull off a win on the road. So they're 1-1, and their season's still not over yet. Deshaun Watson still will continue to play. So we'll have to see what happens there. And then we have a huge upset. This upset surprised me even more than any of the other results. Even though the Saints did blow out the Cowboys. In general, I'm really surprised the Raiders beat the Ravens. 26-23. You figured the Ravens would come out with a fury after losing to the Chiefs the way they lost. They were flat the whole game. They were at home. I feel like there's some major issues going on there mentally with this football team already. They seem broken as far as what they were able to do last year versus this year. And they have totally lost their way. And they're going to need to play with some fire and passion the next time they play because they're more talented than this. Gardner Minshew and Devontae Adams ate them alive. And the Raiders won 26-23. Lamar at the end, he had a chance to run it in for possibly a touchdown, juke some people. Instead, he lateraled the ball, got it out of his hands, and then they fell in the last play of the game. Didn't like that. I think he should have went down on his shield, basically, going for the end zone. The only time you lateral in that situation is if you actually feel yourself getting wrapped up. So often I get frustrated with the guys that are getting wrapped up and they're not able to just toss the ball backwards to somebody or just backwards in general because the game is on the line. But in this case, Lamar wasn't even being touched. There were several players not even touching him, and they were away from him. He could have went up the field even more, another 15, 20 yards, maybe juke somebody out. Instead, he laterals the ball because he thought he had blockers out there, and immediately the play fails. So, disappointed with the ending of that game. The Ravens find themselves 0-2 and not in a good position. There's several teams out there that are 1-1 or 2-0. They're starting in a hole, and they're going to have to work their way out of it. Next up, Rams and Cardinals. I called this. I said Marvin Harrison Jr. is the most talented person in the draft. He is. He should win Rookie of the Year, more than likely. He had 130 yards and 2 touchdowns on 4 catches in the first quarter. This game was never close. It was a total blowout. I knew the Cardinals were going to win the game. I think they're better than people are giving them credit for if Kyler could stay healthy. And I'm not a believer in the Rams. I told you guys this from the jump. They lost to the Lions. They have injury issues. We talked about these injuries, and we have more injury issues. Puka Nakua's got his issues. Now Cooper Kupp's got issues. This team is older. I think this is Matthew Stafford's last year. I think the Rams are not very good. I think they're going to finish last in this division. And when that happens, I think Stafford will retire. I think McVay possibly could move on. I think this team, this iteration of the team is done as far as I'm concerned. But that's why you play the games. We'll have to find out. They play the 49ers next. I don't think it's going to go good for them. Meanwhile, the Cardinals' offense looks pretty good. It looks unstoppable right now. Even against the Bills in a loss, they put up over 30 points. Other than the Saints, no team on offense is doing more damage than the Cardinals. And I just think the difference here is Marvin Harrison Jr. is this next great receiver in the league. And I wish my Patriots took him in the draft. Just saying. So 41-10, total blowout. Next up, Steelers at Broncos. The Steelers won 13-6. This is exactly the kind of game that Mike Tomlin loves. He's relying on his defense to win games. He does it again. He makes chicken salad out of chicken shit every single year. He's able to find a way to have a winning record. And right now he finds himself in first place in the AFC North with a 2-0 record. Meanwhile, other teams are 0-2 or 1-1. And he did it by winning 2 road games. One road game at Atlanta, a team that passed on Justin Fields. Another game at Denver, another team that passed on Justin Fields. So this is the Justin Fields redemption arc, possibly, with the Steelers, and not the Russell Wilson one. I'm pretty sure Tomlin will stick with Justin Fields even if Russell Wilson is healthy, considering the team's 2-0. I think I would as well. It's just the way things are right now. Denver, they have no identity on offense. They need to figure it out. Bo Nix should get better under a Sean Payton ran offense, but they're in a rebuild mode, definitely. Next up, we have the biggest game of Sunday, late afternoon. We have the Bengals and Chiefs in a 26-25 Chiefs win. Lots of penalties towards the end of this game, but I feel like after looking at these penalties and looking at all the calls, I don't see any grievances here. There was pass interference, there was hands to the face. I don't think it marred the game. In some ways, the game was very sloppy, but it's also one of the most entertaining games that we got all weekend. It really was, because it was back and forth. These two teams are always really close. It is a great rivalry. It's very much similar-ish in a way to the Colts and the Patriots back in the day. And if you remember that, Brady won 3 Super Bowls before Manning was able to get one. And in this case, we do have Mahomes winning 3 Super Bowls. Burrow is yet to win one. Now, Burrow is the only man still playing in the National Football League that was able to beat Mahomes in the playoffs once. And also, there was a narrative going around when Burrow was 3-1 versus Mahomes that Burrow has his number. At one point, he was 3-0. Now Mahomes has won the last 2 meetings. That narrative is dead. I feel like we just have a really good rivalry is what this is. And if they meet again, it'll be a great game. I think, you had so many injuries happen, though, in this one, too. Isaiah Pacheco, he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks at least with a fractured fibula, whatever. T. Higgins didn't play this game. Several injuries going on. Hollywood Brown's out for pretty much the season. So the Chiefs are definitely in trouble on offense in some aspects. But at the same time, they find a way to win close games. So we'll have to see going forward how the Chiefs look without Pacheco in the lineup. I think they'll have to figure some things out. Mahomes is not playing great this year. I hate to be the one to point this out. He might have more interceptions than touchdowns right now. His passer rating may not be very good. He only passed for 151 yards. Travis Kelce looks old and washed up. But like I said, this is a team effort, a team win. The defense scored a touchdown here. The defense isn't as great as it was last year either. But they're doing just enough to win these games. But you figure the law of averages, they should lose some of these too. So we'll have to see how things go forward. But they are still the champs. They're back-to-back champs. They're 2-0. And you'd have to be crazy to vote against them. So 26-25. Weird score. Chiefs win. Next up, Sunday Night Football. We got Bears, Texans. Texans win 19-13. This game was very defensive. There was a lot of long field goals to end drives or punts. And this wasn't exactly the superstar showdown we were expecting. The Bears flat out didn't have a run game. Caleb Williams was their high rusher with 44 yards. The star of the game was definitely Nico Collins. C.J. Stroud targeted him a lot. Nico Collins is out there looking like Terrell Owens right now, or DK Metcalf. He's a problem for defenders. He at one point had a penalty called on him. The next play, he scored a touchdown. You know, Stephon Diggs is not getting many targets, and Tank Dell's not getting many targets. Last night was Nico Collins' night. C.J. Stroud had 260 yards, and it's funny we call that pretty much a B- game for him or a C+ game for him now, because he is that dude. He is a superstar, bona fide. It's something that Caleb Williams will have to strive for and do better and learn. But C.J. Stroud's already that guy, and that's why I knew the Texans would win this game. And they were able to win this game. C.J. Stroud also even had a play where he was rolling out through the ball to a wide-open Tank Dell who dropped it, and it would have been like a 70-yard touchdown. So that could have inflated his stats even more, and it could have made the game more out of hand. But the Texans were able to hold on for the win, and now they are 2-0, and they are in the best position of any team in the NFL right now, because every single other team in their division is 0-2. So there is no team right now that's waking up in a better position than the Texans, because they're 2-0, and they're 2 games ahead of everybody in their division. You couldn't ask for a better start for Houston. And lastly, we got Monday Night Football. The Falcons win 22-21. Then they showed a lot of life in this game. You know, especially towards the end of the game, the Eagles had to settle for a field goal, and they go up 6. And if you go to earlier in the game, when it was 0-0, the Eagles went for it on a 4th and 4 instead of kicking a 25-yard field goal, which I thought was a mistake. They didn't get it. Obviously, they missed those points later in the game because they ended up losing 22-21. Kirk Cousins went down the field like the stud that he is, who's won the last 4 out of his 5 primetime games. So we could put the old narrative away that Kirk Cousins is not clutch, that Kirk Cousins can't win in prime time. Now, clutch may be a bit far. We haven't seen it in the playoffs very much with him. But prime time-wise, he's totally turned it around. He used to be somebody that never won on prime time. Now he's won his last 4 out of 5 games on prime time. He led a drive that was literally so fast at the end of the game, getting it into the red zone. If you blinked, you missed it. It was so efficient, so fast, and that's what the Falcons needed at quarterback. They needed an adult in the room and somebody who is talented, and that's what Kirk Cousins is for the Falcons. And he was able to pull off a win, especially good for him after the disappointing loss to the Steelers at home in Week 1. Kirk Cousins is getting healthier. And next week, they do play the Chiefs in a game that looks a little better this week than it was last week. A game that could be a little closer. They play the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football in Atlanta. That'll be a fun watch for sure. The Eagles, on the other hand, they seem like they're having issues here and there, especially on defense when the game matters. To give up that drive the way they gave up that drive was pretty embarrassing on their part. And now that you look at the Eagles' schedule coming up, you know, they have the Saints who are rolling. The Saints could fucking hang 60 on them the way the Saints offense is playing versus the way the Eagles defense plays at certain times. And then they play the Bucks. If the Eagles are not careful here, if Jalen Hurts doesn't get his turnover issues in check, the Eagles could find themselves 1-3. And so, guys, that's it for this NFL recap. We had so many injuries. We had so many problems and upsets, but it's fun. This is what the NFL is all about. It's unpredictable. It's any given Sunday, and I was very pleased to see all the craziness that happened around the league, except for the injuries. I don't like the injuries for anybody. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you next week with another NFL recap episode. Peace. I'm out. Have a good one. Don't forget to check out my other videos, too, if you like video gaming.